the key of this discussion will be how to transform traditional business in high-tech companies. This is a great challenge for all the SMEs in all the major countries, but we can discuss this today. We have a huge opportunity with some of the main experts globally. So I introduce you Bernardo Calzadillo Sarmiento, who's Director of the Department of Trade, Investment and Innovation at UNIDO, who's the United Nations Industrial Development Organization. We had the Director General at the beginning of the WMF. We have and welcome Kilian Gross, who's Head of Unit Technologies and System for Digitizing Industry at the European Commission. Welcome. We have Nicholas Leeder, Vice President and Head of Digital Transformation Solutions at PTC. And finally, Professor Gilles Servad, who's CEO of Ivado. So welcome, everyone. In a few seconds, we'll also connect to the American edition of the World Manufacturing Forum, where a discussion on the same topics is underway. So there will be kind of a cross-contamination between our perspective and what they're discussing in the US. But I would like to start with Bernardo Calzadillo Sarmiento, because, you know, first of all, we are all facing an unprecedented economic downturn. You know, there's a deep crisis. We have never experienced something like that. On one hand, there are troubles and governments are trying to help companies to survive the shock. On the other hand, the technology is accelerating. All the digitalization is accelerating, and it can also create an opportunity for companies and for the resilience of companies. So I let you start with the answers, but as soon as the US will connect, we'll interrupt briefly and then we'll get back. Please. So please, Bernardo Calzadillo.
Yes, I didn't hear. I had a problem with the connection.
All right. Okay, I repeat the question. So first of all, welcome. Thanks for your time. We're happy to have you here. And the question was basically what's happening with COVID? Economic downturn, but digital acceleration and transformation. How do you see the impact for industries?
Very sorry. I'm very sorry. I am frozen.
Oh.
I don't hear you.
All right. I'm sorry about that.
I will try to.
Okay.
I will try to use another device. Maybe it
okay.
It goes better, but it's freezing. I don't hear you. It's not optimal. Sorry.
All right. No problem. We'll take the time to fix it, and we'll call you back. But now I move over to the US, Phoenix, Arizona, where we do have the intervention from Admiral John Polowsknitz from the US Navy. This is Jack Harris.
Introduce
He's
our
the chair of
speaker
WMF in
today,
the US.
Rear Admiral John Polowitz, and both to the World Manufacturing Forum North America this morning and to the World Manufacturing Forum 2020 in Italy this afternoon. Let me give you a little bit of background on the Admiral. Rear Admiral John Polowitz recently served as a White House supply chain lead on the coronavirus task force to ensure healthcare workers get what they need and when they need it. John is brought in from the Joint Chiefs of Staff to stabilize the supply chain in response to the pandemic. Previously, he served as Vice Director for Logistics to the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, a career supply chain and logistics professional with 34 years of experience across strategy development, information technology, financial, and acquisition management. As a Director of Navy Logistics Programs and Business Operations, he was responsible for all Navy supply policy and operations, to include all Navy business systems. During this tour, he modernized the Navy ERP to meet Navy audit goals. John has served across all types of platforms, from submarines to large combatants. He earned a master's degree in National Resource Strategy from the National Defense University, Industrial College of the Armed Forces, a master's degree in Business Management, Naval Postgraduate School, and BS in Engineering from the U.S. Naval Academy. please welcome the Admiral to the stage. Thank you very much for taking the time, Admiral.
Sure, Jack. Thank you for that great introduction. And I would just like to thank the World Manufacturing Forum North America for allowing me today to speak, as well as the World Manufacturing Forum 2020 in Italy. And I know their members across the EU, Asia, and all across the globe. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today. And I'm gonna take about a half hour and walk through some supply chain work that we did on the task force. But really, all of that is grounded in manufacturing, and that's what we're here today to talk about. Now, part of my background, coming from the Joint Staff, I got moved on or about the week of the 16th of March from the Joint Staff to the Department of Health and Human Services to go work for Secretary Azar and his team to help in planning for the pandemic. By the end of that week, I found myself in the White House explaining to the Vice President how I was going to stand up a supply chain task force to help stabilize the supply chain and do what the President asked me to do, which was get our healthcare workers here in the United States what they need when they need it. Now, a little bit about my background of coming from the Joint Staff. The Joint Staff, J4, one of its roles and responsibilities is to understand industrial mobilization for times of crisis. So in that role and responsibility, I spent quite a bit of time trying to understand and work through with the Joint Staff team what might mobilization look like in a 2030, 2035 timeframe, and what tools and rules and authorities might we bring to bear for that industrial mobilization for crisis. And so I had already significant working knowledge of some of those authorities, to include the Defense Production Act and all aspects of that. And throughout my career, I had opportunities to work with industry. And from a DoD perspective, I always firmly believe that we are inextricably linked to industry, whether it be through transportation, whether it be through readiness of weapon systems. Our defense industrial base is critical to our national success. So with that, I developed a way forward for the pandemic response that was really looking to tap into manufacturing and our industrial base and the industrial capacity of the U.S. supply chains. I'm now going to share my screen, and I do have a series of slides, and hopefully we'll get through that, and we'll come back, and I really look forward to at the end answering questions. So now I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully that quickly here I'll bring up and we'll get to my slides. And so the operational setting, and so there's a little bit of a DoD flavor here. The operational setting that I stepped into for the U.S., the framework is for a federal emergency response is locally executed, state managed, federally supported. And so there's only so much federal authorities that can reach down into the states and local governments. As I stepped in the door, our strategic national stockpile had been essentially distributed across the United States. So we got it. It was already sent out based on a pro-state population per capita basis. And so I did not have significant federal stocks, federal resources at my disposal. The infectious disease control relying on a disposable personal protective equipment uh, uh, policies and procedures. A one-use, walk into a room, treat a patient, come out, take all your protective equipment off, and dispose of it, which made a tremendous volume of material used. Coupled with that, most of the medical equipment used in the United States is not manufactured in the U.S. Some are significantly, nitrile gloves being one. The United States is almost wholly reliant on overseas manufacturing. There were other supplies, ventilators to N95 masks that we did have a production base. So there were some things that we were able to tap into. But really, the medical supply chain was very cost-driven pre-pandemic and relied on just-in-time delivery with little inventory being held across what I'll call echelons of supply. Hospitals certainly didn't want to hold a lot of inventory. That cost money. The commercial supply chains really driven that they had some ability to hold inventory, but certainly it wasn't months worth of supply. And then we had seen a significant surge in demand with some items 300-400 times pre-COVID. So if you looked at last November, if we were talking in November 2019, an N95 mask usage in the United States may have been about 5 to 7 million medical N95 masks a month. Well, you can see that demand for N95 masks that we think here is somewhere north of 160 million, somewhere between 160 million and 180 million masks a month. That's an incredible surge in demand. And so that just gives you a little bit of the operational picture that I stepped into, and how would we go about stabilizing the supply chain and tapping into manufacturing. The operational landscape, really, coming into this, I knew that there were a lot of associations. I did not know how many. There's an association for essentially everything. And if you can think about all of the people that are involved in healthcare in the United States, American Hospital Association was instrumental in helping me understand how hospitals operate and what they need and the access to their leadership so we can discuss the response. Same thing with American Nurses Association and along with American Medical Association. And then I will always forever be in debt to the Association of Manufacturers, U.S. manufacturers, to help me work with industry and along with American Healthcare Association. So just a smattering of associations to help me piece together this national response. And you can see in the middle, those are the FEMA regions. And so healthcare in America, don't ever forget, is really managed down at the state level, and it's essentially privatized. Very few government facilities, and really, when we say government, it's state managed healthcare along with private. And so not only did I have to worry about industry and all of the private entities, that I had to build a team that consisted of Health and Human Services, the Centers for Disease Control, the Public Health Corps, FEMA, Food and Drug Administration, National Institute of Health, Centers for Medicare, Medicaid, Services, the Department of Defense, U.S. Treasury, Department of Commerce. I can go on, and every state government and territory was involved in the response. And so you can see the massive coordination effort that that undertaking, the amount of people, the amount of organizations, and everybody had a role to play in that. So as I moved forward, I quickly developed 4 lines of effort for this industry-enabled stabilization of the supply chain. I'm going to quickly walk through these lines of effort, and really what I want to get to is a discussion about the distribution and really expansion, because expansion is about manufacturing. And so I came into the picture mid-March, and unfortunately, I felt like I was significantly what I'll call right of bang. So bang being an event happened. And normally in DoD, you do all the planning. You try to be left of that problem and to get ahead of things. So I stepped in and I was immediately behind the curve. And so everything I did was to build back time to allow me to expand the manufacturing of items in the United States. So the first line of effort is preservation, and it's what it sounds like is how do we make our stuff that we have on hand today go further? And whether it was reuse policies put in place by CDC and the Food and Drug Administration, to working with the hospital associations, nursing associations to come up with best practices in hospital settings and nursing homes to allow efficient use of supplies. So, for example, put all of the monitoring equipment in the hallway. So when you went to go change a bag of fluid or take somebody's temperature or oxygen saturation, you don't have to don full sets of personal protective equipment. You could do that from outside the room. And so it was those types of things to help make what we had on hand, the limited supplies to start the pandemic that we had on hand, go further. The middle line of effort here is acceleration. And that was all about finding supplies across the globe and getting him here faster. And really that manifested itself into what we called the air bridge. And really working with commercial industry, the likes of Cardinal, McKesson, Onens and Minor, and other supply chain experts, I reconfigured the mode of transportation across the network from maritime to air. And so the US government paid for flights from overseas and moved the supplies that were destined for US hospitals and nursing homes and first responders via air mode, vice that 30 some odd day sail time, loaded in port in Asia, sail across the Pacific, dock in the U.S., unload it, and get it through the distribution channel. So really, acceleration was all about finding additional supplies overseas and getting it here faster. Again, preserve, buy time, accelerate. I'd like you to think about that as priming the pump. And then distribution. And so this distribution line of effort was my attempt to manage what I'll call scarcity, because we did not have the supplies entering into the pandemic at the monthly rate of production that we needed. And so really what we did, and I'm going to switch slides, is we developed a supply chain control tower to manage the allocation of supplies. And so within the first 2 weeks, I obtained transactional business information from the large medical supply chain providers to our healthcare networks here in the United States. And I got their business transaction data every day. And we dumped it in the cloud at FEMA. First at FEMA, now it resides at Health and Human Services. But we dumped it in the cloud at FEMA, brought in some supply chain tools from the Department of Defense that we had used to help manage and see the supply chain for select DoD weapon systems. And I could see probably by the second week of April, material moving in from manufacturing how much the network was holding in warehouses and where it was. And more importantly, I could aggregate demand. And so these first 6 commercial distributors, the commercial supply chain that had about the responsibility to provide supplies to 90 some odd percent of the hospital beds, 90 plus percent of the nursing home facility beds in nursing homes in America, and most of the first responders and medical offices. I could see orders from their customers, hospitals, nursing homes, first responders, and I can see how well that they were filling those orders, and I could see back orders. And so therefore, I was able very early in the pandemic to understand national demand. And then we used that to help give to the DoD acquisition professionals targets to increase U.S. production. Now, we also used this supply chain control tower in March, April, May, June, as we went forward, to help manage what I called scarcity. And so we overlaid Dr. Birx's epidemiological information down to the county level on top of the supply chain visibility that we had. And so we orientated the commercial network.
Well, that was Admiral John Polodzik from the U.S. Navy talking about how he is managing the supply chain for the COVID emergency in the United States. As you heard, he had kind of a manufacturing approach, and the tower of control of the supply chain is a good example on how also in some industry, some emergency can be managed in terms of planning, scheduling, and real-time reacting. But we have to come back from the WMF, which is underway in the US. That was the American edition from Phoenix, Arizona, in connections with their speakers, to the edition that is live, streaming live from here, Villa Cernobbio in Villa Erba in Cernobbio. Sorry about that. So I get back to my panelists, and we were talking with Bernardo Calzadillo Sarmiento from UNIDO. I hope you can hear us now. Bernardo Calzadillo Sarmiento, can you hear us now?
I can hear you well now. I hope you can all.
All right. Now it's perfect. Thank you so much for this. We fixed all the technical troubles. So I think that you can start responding to the question that I was. Can you hear me?
I have the mic on. You cannot hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
So we just heard from a member of the US Navy and the military. How did they react to what's happening, managing the supply chain during the emergency of COVID? COVID is having an incredible impact also on the economy and manufacturing sector.
So,
what do you see?
Look.
No, I think, and I'm afraid that you are watching the streaming live, which has a delay. So that's not the case. And I move over to another speaker, and I will get back to you. So let me talk with Kilian Gross. Kilian Gross from the European Commission, for having a European perspective on how AI can help develop and growth of manufacturing, and especially SMEs.
Well, thanks a lot for this very pertinent question, and a warm welcome from my side as well to the distinguished audience. We think that AI is instrumental for manufacturing. And if there's one thing the COVID crisis has shown, because it was your topic, I think, from yesterday, is the importance of manufacturing, of a strong manufacturing sector in Europe, but as well in our partner countries like in the US, for economic growth and for resilience as well. So I think the potential for AI in manufacturing is very large. It starts, of course, predominantly by predictive maintenance, which is a key feature. I hope you can hear me well. I think there's
Yes,
a bit
we
of
do.
echo.
Yes, we do. Please go ahead.
You do, okay. And quality control, optimization of supply chains or inventory control, there's a number of items which you can do with AI, how to optimize your manufacturing spaces. And we just heard the presentation before about the digital twin. So I think we will see much more about that in the future, and AI will be a key technology within the manufacturing sector in order to bring investment and growth. And we think in the European Commission that the economic potential of AI there is really tremendous, what we will see. But all this, of course, requires first the availability of deep computing power. So we need the computer capacity must be available, and we need the availability of deep industrial data. And that is another work stream, of course, on which the Commission is working very hard. You know, we are just about to publish an act on data governance, where we would like to stimulate basically the sharing of data, data spaces, rules on how to govern data, and to create business models how data can be shared. And I think this is really a key part in order to make this data available. So it must go with the data economy. So the data in manufacturing must come together with this. And in the framework of this data governance, we will as well create a data space for manufacturing, which I think will be instrumental in order to really create a full digital chain in the supply chain and to digitize this completely. But besides this, I mean, the Commission has now, we are just in the beginning of a new term, so we have launched a number of initiatives how to boost the development of AI. You know, we are at the edge of agreeing the next multi-annual financial framework for 7 years. And for the first time in history, we have now as well, we're close to an agreement on a recovery and resilience facility of more than 750 billion. And out of this money, more than 20% should be invested into digital. So that is for us a real game changer. So we expect that a lot of money will go into digital and into AI projects, and that will really bring the digitization of the economy to a different level. And on top of this, of course, we will continue with Horizon Europe, our research program, which is the successor of Horizon 2020. But we will have, for the first time, we will have a program called Digital Europe, which is a real enabling program or a deployment program, which goes beyond research and should really equip our companies with digital tools. And here I just want to perhaps name 2 or 3. There will be a lot in for high computing. There will be testing and experimentation facilities, allowing companies to test and experiment in real life conditions, digital solutions. And there will be the digital innovation hubs. And these European digital innovation hubs will play a key role to bring digital solutions into as well to small and medium-sized companies, which are very important for the European economy, in particular in manufacturing. And we wish and we request that every member state will have at least one hub specialized on AI. So that should really then help as well small and medium-sized companies to get the knowledge, to get into the network, and then with the testing and experimentation facilities as well to test the new technology. At the same time, that I want to as well indicate to give you the complete picture, we are preparing a legal framework for AI, because we think that AI must be trustworthy. So the Commission has this 2-step approach. We develop a coordinated plan to boost AI. Together with member states, we will have national strategies. We will coordinate that. We have a lot of research activities and uptake activities. But at the same time, we were as well preparing a horizontal legal framework for trustworthy AI, and in order to, as well to stimulate consumer trust, because we think that must go together, so that the consumers and users can really trust the AI, and that should then allow as well in industrial spaces and manufacturing spaces to make more use of this AI. So this perhaps as a first outline from my side.
Well, fantastic. Thank you for that. Just one question, because you mentioned the resources and investment that you will put into digitization of the economy, and there's a big question mark on timing. When do you think that resources, we know it's not in your hand, it's a process, but after the agreement on the EU budget, do you think there will be an acceleration? 2021 will be a year where companies and economies will see, countries will see the first investments also in this direction?
Well, that's exactly the expectation. The recovery and resilience facility, and I think the words are well chosen, recovery and resilience, both elements are important, should really help to spend in the first 2-3 years. So the idea is to start practically immediately once this has been adopted, so beginning of next year, and the money should then be committed until 2023, I think, if I remember correctly, so very quickly. And this is a very substantive amount of money, 750 billion, and we hope as well to have like in InvestEU a leverage factor, so that should trigger further investment, and it should really help to boost economic development. And for us as a Commission, it is very important that this money is as well designed and used in view of our overall objectives, so the green transition and the digital transformation. So we really would like to use this money to modernize as well our economy, and not just to look at short-term needs. And I think that this COVID crisis has shown, in particular, that companies which have been highly digitized have been much better prepared and been much more resilient. So I think there is no contradiction between these objectives.
Yeah, definitely. From Europe to Canada with Professor Savard. Welcome, Professor. And in a few words, first of all, what's EVA doing for companies and SMEs?
Okay, thank you. Maybe I will have to close my camera if the sound is not so good. So let me start, and thank you for the invitation for this panel. And well, first of all, I will talk about the situation in Quebec, and then a little bit more about my point of view of AI and digital transformation. So the priority number one of our Minister of the Economy and Innovation in Quebec, Mr. Fitzgibbon, is to increase the productivity of our SMEs by fully exploiting the potential of AI and digital technologies. It was already a priority before the pandemic and will be even more so in next government economic update. Our various digital adoption programs that we have in Quebec are in synergy with our world-class AI ecosystem, following heavily investment for over 40 years in academic research and digital intelligence. Digital intelligence, that is to say, the three forms of analytic: descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive. Although I believe the term digital intelligence is more representative than AI, I will stick to the later commonly used term AI. So even though today bring together more than 1,500 scientists in the field of AI, including our scientific director, Joshua Bengio and Andrea Lodi, that you may know, to the organization, industry, manufacturing. So, and in the goal to mobilizing the knowledge in AI and talents to be used by industry. So what's new and why manufacturers need to invest in AI and digital transformation? So very fast, the basic. I used to say that enabling digital technology, that means cloud computing, Internet of Things, robotics, AI, 3D printing, 5G sensor, and AI algorithms are only means and not an end in themselves. And Killian talked about instrumental, and we should keep it in mind. It's only instrumental. For an industry, the objective is to create value, economic value, and digital technology allows for three levels of value creation. First one, better productivity. Second one, developing new digital products. Third one, developing new business model. And the link between these enabling technologies, Internet of Things, robotics, augmented reality, and the value creation lies precisely in data and AI or digital intelligence. So what's new today? Well, I would say that these enabling technologies allow a company now to be or can be fully instrumented, connected, and optimized. The first two terms deal with data acquisitions and data circulation, both inside but outside the company. And we heard about the Amiral Polensky about the importance of communication outside also a company. And the term optimizer is the true value creation part, using the digital intelligence and the new predictive capability of AI. So if we have that, why it's important to invest in this digital transformation? Well, you know the maxim, necessity is the mother of invention. Well, I will say that necessity is the mother of digitalization. In this digital age, the world is changing and very fast. And I will say, especially the consumer. And the industry has no choice to adapt in four directions to be more customer centric. Customers are much more demanding and informed. They want to be connect, and company has to build long-term relationship with these customers. The industry should be more agile, flexible production line, balancing between mass and custom production to quickly adapt to change in demand and in customer choice. Industry should be more cost efficiency. The pressure of the market on the productivity are not new, but now is very. And finally, employee centric. The employee should be involved, add value, mobility, attract and retain your employees. So this is an overview of, I think, the positioning of AI enabling technology within this new context.
For this, we'll get back to you in a moment, but I want to also hear the other panelists on the same topic. So let me move to Nicolas Leeder, because yes, we understand there's a great potential in AI application from the shop floor to supply chain, organization, and so on, but apparently it's not that easy to get to that level. And according to all the latest business survey that we saw, including a very recent New Vantage Partners Big Data Executive Survey, 3 out of 4 organizations report that business adoption of AI initiative are a significant challenge. How is that, and how can company unlock the potential of AI for their growth?
Hi. I assume it's a question to me. Unfortunately, the technology is really difficult and there's a big delay here. So hopefully you can hear me.
Yeah.
I think there's 2 real areas that I'd like to. Sorry.
No, please go ahead.
I apologise. The connection is quite poor today, so I'll continue to answer, and hopefully the feed will make sense to yourselves. I think there's 2 areas I'd like to explore about how AI is going to help manufacturers advance in what they're doing, and bring it down to a number of practical levels as well. I think the customer scene and the industry in general has been a panacea of problems, which has yet really truly helped companies create the impact that they need, that we've seen with the customers have stalled often. And the problem is stalling because the outcome, the business benefit, what really companies need to AI technology in their manufacturing environment, not that clear. And because innovation, is often draining the valuable resources that you have in manufacturing and create a situation pilot purgatory. And when we start, if we start to, I would say often these projects are looking the hunt for that perfect algorithm to help them along that journey. So, what I see and where I see AI really taking off is when it's brought into context of what they're trying to achieve and included in a comprehensive transformation program within the manufacturing environment. Having a clear understanding at the beginning of the end goal and the steps you take with. I heard Gilles talk earlier on about the different levels of AI in what he was talking about, but under the uses and the business issue you're trying to adopt, constraints that you will have within your business, and how that will improve the resourcing and alignment that you'll have in your business to drive to that outcome. A number of steps, 3 practical steps that I see a lot of companies adopting right now in their AI journey are, as I said, get to that pain point and goals, align that strategy with an overall transformation goal, that North Star, and how it underpins what companies need to do, and start with the high value use cases that also have the kind of the minimal amount of technical enablement and change often within your organization to demonstrate the value and to demonstrate the impact. The barriers to some of the adoptions, though, I must admit, are often not limited in the technical side of things. Speaking, from a personal experience and working with our worldwide, I think one of the key barriers is making sure that people start to use AI as a way to empower the workforce and create that workforce of the future, and enhancing the ability of the worker and the human within your environment. A fundamental component of that, Killian mentioned earlier on, was developing that trust, the trust that the information you're receiving is actionable with a high degree of certainty, but trust that by using AI, it's not going to replace the deep skills of process knowledge within manufacturing organizations. So to really help the worker augment and enhance what they do, not replacing what they do to get to that business. Examples of this we're starting to see emerge in industry, combination of how commission and the power of technology combined with technologies like AI and and that computer vision in augmented reality, how that transforms operations on the shop floor. For example, the inspection processes that many companies need to do in that manufacturing, the validation before things move on to the next step. Are the right components applied? Are they connected and the right positions? Also down into manufacturing, but feeding then into kind of the service and maintenance environment. And, that has an equal applicability into maintenance and the necessity to maintain the operating environment within the manufacturing facilities of many customers. So using the information to move towards that predictive maintenance, enabling that combination of AI and computer vision to perform those maintenance operations in a safe and way, and then very gradually building onto those capabilities to become more prescriptive and gaining the true business benefits of AI and data and information, as Gilles was talking about, that could really enhance the business of the future.
Well, thank you for that. I'm sorry we're struggling with bandwidth and poor connection today, especially for the audience. But so I'll move back to Killian Gross, and based on what you could hear also from the other panelists. But my question is, this trend, digital transformation, was already underway before COVID. And many questions we're receiving today are from people from SMEs, and they're saying, we turn into kind of a survival mode. So we're trying to reduce cost, We're trying to muddle through this situation. We're trying to survive liquidity, new credit lines, and everything. Do you feel like that all of we're talking about, so saying and suggesting SMEs need to move into an AI era, so digital transformation and the new manufacturing capabilities, will be slowed down by what's happening in terms of investment capabilities of SMEs, and what the EU can do in terms of allowing this process not to stop, and maybe leaving other countries like China, for example, which is already out of the woods, to get a lead in many sectors of the industry? Kilian Gross, do you hear me?
Now, can you hear me again?
Yes, now we can.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I hope now it's stable. No, thanks for the question. I think that is a crucial question because, to put it very simple, what would be the alternative to fully digitize for SMEs? I mean, the success of European SMEs is that European SMEs are often hidden champions in a specific area in which they're working. So they may be small in size, but they're very advanced in technologies, and they are very innovative, and they are drivers of innovation in Europe because they work together in clusters. They benefit, they have interaction with universities and research communities. It is indeed, of course, true that in a situation of crisis, there is a risk that the available financial resources are then spent.
Well, unfortunately, it's not that stable, the connection. Please try again. Yeah, I just stopped a second because we could barely hear you. And in fact, I think we've lost you. So I move to Gilles Savard, Professor Savard.
Okay,
if your
can
line
you now hear me? I switched off the camera.
Oh yeah, okay. So you're going just with the audio line. Okay, let's try like that. We're not fortunate today with connection and bandwidth. Let's see if Kilian Gross, can you hear us again? Okay, please try again, Kilian Gross.
I can hear you, but I hope you can hear me as well.
Yeah. That's
okay. I try
fine.
Again. No, I think it's crucial, and we need really to help here the SMEs, because it would be a lost opportunity if they would now lose this the connection to the digital revolution. So we think we will put money on the table. That is the Recovery and Resilience Facility. We will continue, which I think is very important, with the InvestEU, which was formerly known the Juncker Plan, which would trigger, I think, a very considerable investment in Europe. You remember that the Juncker Plan was the second time was called InvestEU. So we will have a number of programs where we try to support them, besides regional and the other regional.
I share your feeling. Well, let's make a final try, Kilian Gross, because we hear you.
Oh, sorry, it seems to be very difficult, the connection today.
Yeah.
A final try. And I don't want to repeat myself too often because I don't know what you've got.
No, we got it.
I try to be short so that I get it across before I'm interrupted. No, I think it's crucial, and I think from the Commission we really identify that there is a significant financial need. So we have this Recovery and Resilience Facility, we have the InvestEU facility, which was before known as the Juncker Fund, we have the European Investment Bank, we have national promotional banks with whom we work. So I think there's a number of financial instruments besides, on top of it, of course, the regional funds, that we try to mobilize.
I'm afraid we have to leave it there because it's really unstable. I'm sorry about that. I'll move to Professor Savard, who we heard perfectly before, which sounded like a miracle. And so, Professor Savard, we discussed and we tried to discuss actually the impact also of the COVID-19 crisis, because we cannot assume that companies can think at the future as they used to do at the end of 2019, for example. So it's kind of a great wake-up call. Companies that had already invested in 4.0 business model and technologies, they had a better resilience, especially during the months of the summer, for example, when the recovery and the rebound of the economy was strong, especially in Europe. But many are looking at the future, asking themselves, where can we find the resources to invest more in digital technologies and AI? What do you make of that? What's the reaction of the hundreds of companies you're working with in what they call the Quebec Silicon Valley around your institution?
Yeah, good question about that. I would say that the situation today is probably a little bit different than 4 months ago. I think companies start to look about the future. They know that the pandemic will finish one day. And one thing I'm very sure is that the pandemic will accelerate in the medium term the digital transformation of our companies. And we have seen that company manufacturers that already connected, I would say, as digital capabilities are a much more better way to pass through these pandemics. So in the midterm, the digital transformation will be accelerated on all industries. In the short term, we have developed in Quebec many programs to accelerate these transformation. So federal government, Quebec government put a lot of money to help hospital, help industries to digitalize many of their process. And we launched some program where 100% of that cost has been reimbursed by the government actually. So of course, in response to the specific pandemic crisis, but so in my point of view, no issue about the digital transformation. Pandemic will accelerate the need for this transformation economy. But as Nicolas told us, it's very important to think about these technology be part of the overall business strategy. It's not a tech trap. Don't focus on technology. Focus on the business strategy. Align technology to the process transformation of your industries. And we don't have choice today to be more resilient, to be more connected, and to be more efficient. Amiral Polonsky talked about these supply chain that should be more resilient, more reactive. And this is true. So pandemic, well, I would say it's a pause of maybe 1 year, but it's a V curve, and we will be in the we will see a great increase of investment, but wise investment. Don't lose your money. It's very important to align to your business strategy. And I always say that the production of AI, digital intelligence within an industry must be driven by the use of AI and not the reverse. It's not a tech push, it's a market business driven.
Yeah, that's great. And I want to just add one point, which is what we see here in the industrial scenario of Italy, the role of leader into the supply chains, into the individual sectors. Because when the times are tough like these, the leaders can also help the smaller parts and components of the supply chain to muddle through, increasing their connection, also through technology. How do you see the relation inside supply chains between great and the biggest companies and their suppliers? Because again, it can change the situation, a more cooperative approach. We discussed this yesterday in a panel. Normally, there's a negotiation between different components of supply chains. But what's happening can turn the approach to a more cooperative approach, to a more open approach. What do you make of that?
I can answer. I don't know if I don't want to take the place for the other one, but we have a program, a federal and Quebec program of $500 million, and that program will finance 50% of development of a product, of a process within a consortium of industry. And we need to be accepted that we have a large company, but also SMEs and eventually startup. So I agree with you that these consortium are required to stimulate the SMEs. A large company has a longer view in terms of horizon, and they may invest a little bit more than SME. So with this program at Scale AI, well, a large company can receive 50% of developing costs of a new product, a new process, but they need to do it with SMEs, and they have to include SMEs within the development. And if we are talking about supply chain, anyway, we don't have choice. It's a mix of small company, very large company, and it's a continuum between all these companies. So yes, we need these leaders, these large company, these aerospace, these mining, to work with SMEs. And especially in Quebec, where 95% of the companies are SMEs.
Well, thanks again, Professor Gilles Savard from Ivado. And I apologize with all the speakers, the panelists, and the audience for the technical nightmare. We had troubles and we've lost many connections, so I excuse for what happened. And you know, this is bandwidth, this is connection, sometimes it happens. So thanks again to Kilian Gross from the European Commission, Nicolas Leeder from PTC, Gilles Savard from Ivado, and Bernardo Casadillo Sarmiento from Unido that we missed completely. I hope there will be soon another chance to speak together in a panel. So thank you so much.